Good morning, guys. Hope you're well. And last night, no doubt, you will have paid the $4.99 to watch AFC Bournemouth versus Benfica in Portugal. We went down 2-1, and it was a pretty good performance in the first half, but there were a few sort of errors at times, and we got to see that more in the second half. Yet it was a goalless second half. And what kind of performance was it? What do you think? Let us know in the comments below. And to discuss it with me, we've got Tom Jordan here with me. Tom, how's it going?
Yeah, not bad, Sam. How are you?
Yeah, very good. Thank you. And also Neil Weedon as well. Neil, how's it going?
Hi, Sam. Yeah, good. Thanks, mate.
So I don't know about you, Tom, but I was really worried over the last sort of week or so, because I've been thinking, you know, all the other teams are playing competitive fixtures. Like Norwich have got matches abroad lined up, and we had absolutely nothing apart from this weird Betway Cup match, which is just one friendly against West Ham, but for some reason they've made it a cup. And I was thinking, hang on, who else are we playing? But then they pull this Benfica fixture out the bag, and there you're thinking, hang on, we've got a stern European test here.
Yeah, it was interesting because I thought that we'd definitely only play teams in England, especially with the whole, lockdown business. And I think there was something said that they expected us to only play teams in England. But yeah, it was a nice little game. I thought they're a decent side. You know, they've played in Europe for years, so knew it would be a decent test for us anyway, which is good ahead of obviously the big cup game against West Ham, which is, that's the trophy we all want to win. So,
and Neil, what do you make of that? Having a friendly against West Ham that for some reason has been badged a cup, and there's even going to be a trophy. It'll go to penalties, that kind of thing. What on earth is that all about?
I haven't got a clue. I was still looking for the Dorchester fixture.
Yeah, yeah.
Where's that one? When are we going to buy that one?
Dorchester, Hamworthy, you think that maybe we've dropped down, maybe we'll, revisit those. But apparently we're supposed to be playing some South Coast teams as well. But, goodness knows if that's going to happen. And it's an interesting one, isn't it, Tom? Because, there are so many different variables with this. We're playing a team that's at the, top level of European football. We've got JT in charge. We didn't know who was going to be there and who wasn't. And as it turned out, there was no Callum Wilson, no Josh King, no David Brooks as well, and no Harry Arter. Now, Chris Temple on Twitter said that it looks like Harry Arter's future lies elsewhere. Brooks and Wilson were apparently injured. No Josh King. He's being linked with Spurs at the moment. So goodness knows what will happen with that. So what did you think of the omissions? Did you just think, yeah, I'll take their word at face value with regards to the injuries, or do you think Wilson and Brooks are maybe being kept behind for other reasons?
Yeah, it's a bit of a strange one because, I mentioned it. It was one of my mates mentioned it to me, and I thought that's a good point, that they didn't, Mepham travelled, but they never said that he was injured. Well, why have you not mentioned that Mepham was injured? It's like there was no point of mentioning that Mepham was injured. Do you know what I mean? Which was a bit strange because I don't think Callum even travelled. Yet they mentioned that he was injured. Whether they are or not, I made a point that I thought if Brooks genuinely is injured, then surely any of the suitors are going to be thinking, he's injured again. Am I really going to pay 20+ million for this guy who's injured again? Do you know what I mean? So whether they were or not, I was quite keen to see some of the other guys really, some of the players that you think will definitely be a part of the squad going forward. And, whether we needed to see, whether Callum and Brooksy and that stay or not, we kind of know what they're about, particularly Callum. And I think it was a good opportunity to see some of the other guys that are probably heads are a bit more switched on, what they're going to do for Bournemouth in the upcoming season. So, yeah, wasn't sure what to make of it, really.
And then the starting lineup saw Begovic, Smith, Steve Cook, Kelly, Rico, Stanislas, Lerma, Lewis Cook, Danjuma, Dom Solanke, and also Sam Surridge up front. I think out of that, there weren't really many surprises, apart from maybe the goalkeeper, because Begovic, I thought, based on the money, he's probably costing wage-wise. I didn't think he'd be involved, but as it turned out, he had the first half and Travers had the second.
Yeah, that was that surprised me because it didn't surprise me that the goalkeepers got a half each. And whether you read too much into it, that Begovic started, I'm not sure. They're both going to get 45 minutes each. The thing that surprised me was that if Begovic was surplus to requirements here, whether it's the money he's on or he's just not going to be a part of it, then you would have taken a young goalkeeper and played a half with Travers. You wouldn't have bothered playing Begovic, in my opinion. So that makes me wonder: is there another chance for Begovic? Has Tyndall wanted to have another look at him? Which, fair enough, he does. If we don't know, in his contract whether relegation affected his wages, etc., etc. But I would be very surprised if he's just going to go now, because you wouldn't have played him. You just wouldn't have bothered. You would have played, what's the young lad, Dennis, isn't it? You would have played him for a half.
Yeah.
So that was interesting that he travelled. I'm not going to read too much into the fact that he started, because they did just get a half each. So, but yeah, see what happens with that. It was a bit of a surprise, but apart from that, as expected, really.
And what were your thoughts on the first half, Tom? Because for me, I was watching it. It seemed a very open and expansive game, loads of space. The type of game that Bournemouth like to play, really. A lot of balls into channels, and it sort of ebbed and flowed. It looked like it was quite an attractive sort of match to watch. It was almost like your sort of Brighton performance away, where we won 5-0, and there just seemed to be acres of space on the pitch, and we seemed to have the pace on the flanks and through the middle, actually, to exploit them. And it was a really nice game to watch, although it didn't start too great, I suppose, did it? Where Lerma gifted a free kick on the edge of the box, and they took it, albeit they blasted it wide, but then individual errors started to creep in, and I think it was Lewis Cook that gave it away, wasn't it? And then it was Adel Tarabt that great strike into the top right hand corner. Could Begovic have done better there? Because a lot of people on Twitter said he should have.
I think it was the fact that he got a hand to it. I think if he hadn't quite got a hand to it, people would have just said that's a great goal. I think that'd be a little bit harsh. And yeah, like you say, it started off quite lively. I thought we looked, we were pressing quite high. It was quite fast tempoed, actually, for pre-season friendly. And they've obviously got a bit of quality. And I thought we set up the right way, tried to counter, like you say, cause some problems. But the individual errors, obviously it was Lewis, particularly for the first goal. That's going to happen in friendlies. You're going to, the odd loose touch here and there. You're going to be a little bit rusty. But I thought on the whole, we looked quite fit, quite ready. I was pleasantly surprised with that. And like I say, they are a decent side, Benfica, and they're no mugs. And I thought we got in a few times. And yeah, we looked quite lively. I was quite happy with the first half display, despite coming down. But I thought both goals were pretty good. So was ours, to be fair. All three goals were very good, I thought.
Yeah, and you know what? We've all been sort of focusing on our striking options and wondering whether we're going to keep King or Callum, and we've been thinking, is Dom Solanke going to be the one up front, and can Sam Surridge do a job? But I haven't really given a second thought to Danjuma, weirdly, but arguably player of the match. And Neil, you saw a bit of the first half, but most of the second half. But Danjuma, he could be promising in the Championship if we keep hold of him, couldn't he?
I rate him really highly from what he's done while he's been fit enough to play for us so far. He looks really lively, very skillful, and I think in some of the cases where he's played so far last season, I think he's looked almost ahead of other players insofar as he's got some ideas, and I think they've been too slow to catch up with him. If you know what I mean, he's waiting for a ball that never comes, and therefore looks as though he's out of position or not making the right move. But I think he's definitely, if we keep him in the Championship, surely he's got to be a starter up front for us.
Well, that's right. And what a cracking minute. I think it was on about 16 minutes, and it was two players that were all sort of unsure of and really wanting to keep it. It was Lerma that spread out a ball to Rico on the left side, and I thought he was going to whip it in, but he didn't. He sort of pulled it back slightly where Danjuma was waiting. He held his run, then collected the ball, and he cut in on the right foot, Tom, and cracking finish into the corner, wasn't it? I thought it was a really, really great goal.
Yeah, and I was chuffed for him because I agree with what Neil said. When we've seen him in kind of little cameos, and I've always thought he's looked lively, he's looked a threat. But I think that's probably I don't know when he come off. He was one of the last players to get substituted. He played. That's probably the longest he's played for us in one game. And I was really pleased with him to get his goal, because I think he had a chance just before that really early actually, where he danced through a few players and just skied it. But really pleased to see him get that goal. I thought that lifted his confidence even more. It was a beautiful pass from Lerma out to Rico. Yeah. And then, then Rico, I thought he looked good at times. I think Diego's one of them players that I kind of think, God, he's a really good player. Then 5 minutes later, I think, oh, what's he doing? Do you know what I mean? He's not consistent. He's still got them little errors in him. But I think going forward sometimes, I thought him and Danjuma had a really nice link up in that first half. And I thought that caused them the most problems. I think Danjuma is going to be similar to Stanislas on the other side. It's going to be fitness. It's going to be fitness because Danjuma was highly rated before we got him. I think the only reason he probably didn't go to a bigger club was because of his injury record. Then obviously he's come to us and got injured a lot. Stanislas is clearly going to be a top player in the Championship if he stays fit. So I was really pleased to see both of them, but particularly Danjuma, get a long time out there today and look quite fit and look fresh. That was really good.
I like to think that I know a bit about European football, but I must admit I wouldn't be able to tell you whether that starting 11 for Benfica was strong or not. Do you know if it was, Tom?
All I saw, I just knew a few names, mainly because I think it was Tarat and Vertonghen, both from the Premier League. But I saw from Benfica on the Twitter and stuff, doing a bit of translation, they virtually played like half of their best team in the first half and half of their best team in the second half, with a few kind of like fringe players in there. So I think it was a bit of both halves, to be honest.
And then obviously they made it 2-1. Again, I think Bournemouth are probably quite guilty of overplaying it. It was a really energetic game, and there were times where it almost seemed too fast and the players were just making errors. And I think it landed at the feet of Everton, who shot on the turn. Begovic couldn't get across, and it was a really decent finish low to his left. And then, I think the game started to turn. Bournemouth didn't have as many chances, and there seemed to be so many shots from Benfica from distance. Most of them were arguably sort of over the bar, but some good expansive football from the home side. They started to dominate the midfield. I think Dom Solanke and Sam Surridge, the more it went on, they looked a little bit more exposed up front, didn't they? I mean, Dom got a spot on the ball for quite a bit, but Sam Surridge, not so much. He didn't really seem to get a look in, and maybe that was why Tyndall took him off after 45 minutes, Tom.
Yeah, I think the only thing that I was really quite excited to see them both together, Dom and Sam, but you'd like to play obviously one off the other, whether it's 4-4-2 or not. You don't really have them flat next to each other. Next to each other. But I couldn't really work out which one was supposed to be dropping off and which one was supposed to be kind of, playing a little bit higher up. They tended to kind of vary that, and it just didn't work. They didn't get a great amount of service. I think, like we said, it come through the flanks more. But, they huffed and puffed, but nothing really went through them. And then you kind of felt like the more they got hold of the ball, we might as well just put another man in midfield, which is obviously what we decided to do at half-time. And that didn't surprise me. I don't think it was necessarily either of the strikers' fault, really. I think it was just one of them games, and they were more comfortable on the ball than us. And I think we had quite a lively start, but then little things, I thought we just started, the legs were going a little bit, and there was a few heavy touches, and we lost our rhythm a little bit. But I want too much to overly concern me. I just think that I think it's good that you continue playing them two for a few games and just see how they get on. But I think it was a game against good opposition where we could have done with an extra man in midfield. So I can see why he changed that.
I think Solanke is closer to a number 10 than Surridge, isn't he?
I'd agree.
Solanke has been played in that position before, and we saw with one of the goals he scored, which isn't difficult to remember. But he has got good feet, and so maybe it'll work. Let's hope so.
I mean, you're sort of looking at our striking options, and if Callum Wilson does go, Josh King does go. I mean, Danjuma seemed to be up front for a little bit today, and seemed to do all right wherever he played. Really, I thought he was very tricky on the ball. Looked to cut in. What did you make of his second half performance, Neil?
Well, I thought we started okay, but then it just looked like any other game from the second half of last season. After that, even as far as playing out the goal kicks short and getting into trouble, get into the Benfica penalty area, trying to overplay, and then a player just not having anyone to pass to, nowhere to go, and losing the ball. So I thought it was a disappointing second half, and we just. As I sent out a tweet halfway through saying we just need a maverick. We need someone in there who can do something a bit different. I think Danjuma could be that player, or even Stanislas, when he's on song. But we had no one to do anything different. And if you were the manager of the opposition, looking to defend against us with a 2-1 lead, it doesn't appear to be that difficult to put a system together to do that, to stop us playing.
It's very strange though, because I feel as though the first half performance was miles better than the second half, yet we end up losing it 2-1. Whereas in the second half, it's it's a 0-0, and we did make changes with Travers, Stacey, Billing, Gosling, Kilkenny, Simpson, and then towards the end you've got Zamora coming on and Namdi as well. So there were a lot of changes, and Philip Billing, he's a person that divides fans, and I thought his interceptions at times in the second half were very good. I thought, he makes these leggy challenges and seems to intercept them, but when he's on the ball, he sometimes doesn't use it as well as he should. Neil, thoughts on it?
Well, Billing, I think it is frustrating to watch him because, like you say, he's very leggy, obviously very tall, and I think there are some people who watch him who expect his legs to go like Ryan Fraser's, but he can't do it. He's too big. I think he's a good player, but I don't think we actually know where to play him to get the best out of him. He can pass the ball. We've seen that he can get up and head the ball in the opposition area, but I don't know. It's just consistency, isn't it? And you see him do great things for 20 minutes, and then he drops out of the game.
So obviously we ended up losing 2-1. And Tom, how are you feeling after it? Have you got any sort of real emotions? Because I must admit, for me, that not much has overly changed. I don't. That first 45 minutes, I must admit, has filled me with a little bit of optimism. But then you see the usual mistakes creep in with, Travers kicking it into touch a number of times and sometimes guilty of overplaying it, when sometimes we should just maybe get rid. And maybe Tyndall made the team selections that he did and left the players that we've talked about out because he knows they're on the way. Because, rumour has it that, Callum Wilson will be, etc., Josh King, David Brooks. So maybe the players that he had on show today are the ones that he thinks are going to be moving forward with us in the Championship.
Yeah, well, I'll take that if that's the case. Lerner started, and I would have expected him to go. But I think it was kind of what I expected in terms of it's your first pre-season friendly. You're playing against a team that are good on the ball. We tried to play counter-attack, and I thought it worked in the first half. Once they got the lead, we got leggy. They just kept the ball. We couldn't break them down. Like Neil said, we didn't really have any plan B. It was quite easy the game was always going to end 2-1. But that was how it was going to be for me. We started quite well, and we were always going to tire a little bit. As I first came back, there wasn't anything that really surprised me too much. I think what's clear to see is we're going to be playing out from the back again. That hasn't changed at all. And as whether you agree with it or disagree with it, if a few things go wrong, well, we're trying to play the way that obviously the coaches are telling us to play. The lads will say, well, I would clear it, but I'm told to play this way. They've just got to get better at doing that. If that's what the coach is telling them to do, they're not going to start lumping it because then they won't be in the team. They just got to get better at doing it. And if they're not good enough, then they're going to have to be replaced. But I thought on the whole, it was kind of as I expected. I don't know what you think, but I genuinely, if Eddie Howe was still the manager, would it have been any different? I couldn't see any difference in the way we played. There wasn't anything today that made me think, oh, Jason's changed it. Not at all. Whether that will come with a few more games, I don't know. But there was nothing new, really, which is neither here nor there. I don't think that's brilliant or really poor either. But it was okay. I think the only frustrating players was Lewis Cook in the first half. Just had one of them halves. As soon as he gave the first goal away, which was just him losing the ball, then he just kept losing it. And then I think, like we were saying, then you bring Billing on in his place, and I thought they're two players that are clearly got quality, but I don't know what they really do in terms of. I've said this to you before, Sam. Everyone knows what Jefferson Lerner does, in his defensive role. Gosling runs around and he does come in with a lot of goals as well. Billing and Lewis Cook, they're not defensive players. They're not really attacking players. They don't score any goals. They don't really assist too much. They give the ball away now. I don't, I can clearly agree with a lot of fans that they've got a lot of ability there. There's no question. But they've got to be giving more, the pair of them, because for me, if we had to play tomorrow, our first game, I'd play Gosling and Lerma, personally.
Would you know what you're
going to get from them.
Would you rather have someone who maybe didn't come into the game as much as Lewis Cook does, but then did something exceptional at some point during the game?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think to be fair to Lewis, he's brave, so he wants to get on the ball all the time. So you're always gonna, you're always gonna lose the ball now and again. It wasn't his fault that when he lost it, they put it in the top corner. But yeah, just for me, he's got to, like you say, he's got to grab the game a little bit more and just have more of an impact in terms of numbers, in terms of assists, in terms of creating chances, scoring goals. I can't remember the last time Lewis Cook had a shot.
It feels like confidence, doesn't it?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, and like you say, he did have a horrible injury as well, and he was definitely better before that injury. I'm not questioning that at all. And like I say, I'm not saying we should get Billing and Lewis Cook out. I'm just saying I think it's more frustration because we know how good they are, because we know that technically they're better than Dan Gosling. But Dan Gosling, I know what I'm going to get from him. Do you know what I mean? And that's that thing where Dan Gosling is just your pro and that experience, and he'll just give you 100%, and you know what you're going to get. But for the ability that Billing and Lewis Cook have, I just feel they should be given a little bit more, but we'll see.
There were a few players I thought, bright flashes. I thought, Stanislas had a few moments in that first half, but, one of the standout performers, I think, obviously we've mentioned Danjuma, but Lloyd Kelly at the back looked so assured, didn't he? And, that fee that we paid Bristol City, there's no way that we won't get less for him. Should we sell him? We've made a tidy profit on him. However, if we can keep him in the Championship, that would be absolutely fantastic. And just looks really assured on the ball, very calm, very composed, and could be an integral cog this season, couldn't he, Tom? Because I thought astounding.
Yeah, no, he just looks a class act, doesn't he? I mean, when we've done a few of these, we've done the podcast about the kind of player ratings and stuff, and I felt like I can't give him that high because he's barely played, but he's been that good that you just can't help but think, God, we've got one hell of a player here. And I think obviously Mepham didn't play tonight, but with him being available as well, you've got options there to kind of change system in terms of like a three in the back, because Lloyd Kelly's also natural as playing as a fullback as well as a centre back. And I just feel like that's going to be another little option to us. We changed that in the second half because he's so comfortable on the ball. You wouldn't mind him kind of playing left centre and then kind of going out to a fullback role and getting on the ball a little bit more. But yeah, he's got the physique as well. He's kind of playing like I expected Mings to be when he come in, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, very true.
But I feel a lot more assured with Lloyd Kelly. He doesn't look as, Mings is a good player, but Lloyd Kelly looks more composed. I don't feel like there's going to be as much clumsiness with Lloyd Kelly, and I'm really looking forward to seeing him. But I don't want to think too far ahead. But if he plays for the full Championship season and we don't go up, we ain't keeping him for much longer because he's a talent. He's English, young English as well. He's a hell of a talent.
Do we need a right-footed version of him though?
Yeah, but I like Steve Cook. I think people get on his back a little bit. But I also think we forget with the injuries. I think Chris Mepham is a good player. I think he could, if Steve Cook has a few, shaky games, I wouldn't be surprised to see Meps come in. We got to remember when we signed him, he was one of the top centre-halves in the Championship for Brentford, and I've got a feeling if Brentford had won that playoff final, they might have tried to come back in for him. He's highly rated there. So we're all right in that position, I think. Even losing Nathan Ake, I think we're strong. I think I can see why Frano was let go, really, when you look at them options, to be honest, and obviously Stacey and Smith at right back as well. I think we're fine at the back, which is weird, but I think we are.
Yeah, well, it's going to be interesting to see how the season unfolds. And as a kind of WhatsApp group that we are on, Tom and Neil, it was Benfica and not Brentford, wasn't it? So there are some positives to come out of that, even though we're still kind of thinking, it wasn't brilliant, but it wasn't not good.
Are we
European talent?
I don't think we're desperate for a win. Couldn't we do with maybe not Dorchester, but a team where we can actually get just relax a bit and play the way that we know that our players can play and get a bit of confidence.
Yeah.
Like West Ham, for example.
Yeah, and you know what, we might even lift some silverware as well. But yeah, there's not much that we can, we could read into every single individual, performance. But they have had a bit of time off, and it was sort of unique in many circumstances. Playing in Portugal, and with JT in charge as well. We don't quite know what input Graham Jones has had at this point as well, but I'm sure that he's going to have sort of more input as time goes on. So I don't know. It's going to be a very absorbing start to the season, and there's more friendlies to come that are going to be announced in the next few days. But there we are. Yeah, Bournemouth were beaten 2-1 at Benfica. Not a bad scoreline. Tom, thank you very much for for popping on.
Cheers, nice one.
And Neil, thanks for your input as well.
Thanks, guys. Good to talk to you.
Good stuff. And if you want to make any comments, put them down below. Let us know what you think about the performance and which players you think will go and which ones you think will stay. We'll see you in the next video of the Cherries.